I'm Maya.
And I'm Indra.
And we're both teachers, and we are obviously very, very committed to helping you as you help your children learn. So as educators, we're constantly competing for our students' attention, right? Your kids could be paying attention to so many different things, to the child next to them, to the child across the room, to all the noises around them or the colors around them. And we want our students to pay attention to us, not to all of these other distractors. So what are some ways we as teachers can improve our students' attention and focus in the classroom?
So in this video, we're going to be looking at how we can grab our students' attention, how we can help them sustain their attention over the 40 minutes or 1 hour that we have with them in the class. And third, we're going to help them self-regulate. And this is so important because it helps for students to know when they're getting distracted and when they're paying attention so that they know how to help themselves focus, so we don't have to keep telling them, pay attention all the time.
That's right.
So we're going to show you a short video about some great techniques how teachers can grab their students' attention right at the beginning of the class.
Hello parents and anybody else who watches this video. I'm going to talk to you today, my class working hard behind me, about the #1 comment I get as a teacher. Everybody say hi. Hi! Back to work. The #1 comment I get as a teacher is that they don't know how I do it. They're always like, how do you do it 25 kids in one day? Well, one of the keys is grabbing their attention. So you got to do fun attention grabbers, and then you have 25 kids giving you their attention. So, for example, I can make your hands clap. See? It's pretty awesome. So this video, I'm going to show you all kinds of different attention grabbers, and you can even try to use them at home. It's fun. Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Chesser.
Good morning, class. Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Chesser.
Good morning, class. Social studies. All word. Attack mode. Zippity doo dah. My oh my.
What a wonderful day.
Mannequin challenge. What's up, class?
What's up, Mr. Chesser?
What's up, class? I can make your hands clap. Class, class.
Yes, yes.
Class, class, class.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
Red Robin. Do 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 do. Lemonade. Okay, here's a new one. When I say ancient, you say Rome. Ancient. Rome. Ancient. Rome. Ancient. Attack mode.
So I think one of the things that's interesting about Mr. Chesler's class is that he actually spent some time at the beginning of the year talking to his students about attention, about the importance of attention, how to sustain attention, and training them to use these attention grabbers, right? So I think definitely as teachers, one of the things we can do at the very beginning of the year, it's a very good investment in our time, is to help our children, our students, understand how attention works and train them with certain call and response systems or certain attention grabbers like he did.
So a great way to help students and to get their attention is to engage the senses. Now, you could use sounds the way Mr. Chester used. He would raise his voice, or he would lower his voice, and he would get students to respond in those ways. You could use visual cues, you could use videos and gestures, and get kids to really engage with their senses, and this would help them get into that state of alertness. Even if their energies are low or if they're sagging, you can help them bring back their focus into the class.
Another great way to maintain engagement and attention is to incorporate movement and free play into your classes. Now, this might seem more natural with younger kids, right? But I think it's important all the way through adolescence up through grade 12, because all of us need to move, and sometimes a little bit of movement can help us regulate our attention and get our attention back in focus. So if you feel like your class is lagging in attention, sometimes getting them all up and moving, say let's all get up and do a quick stretch break, or let's do an activity that involves some movement where you have to move to different parts of the room or get into groups. All of those things can actually help grab attention and sustain attention as well.
So when we think about how we can sustain our students' attention over the entire period that we have them for, there's a great acronym which is called CRAVE, and I'm going to show you what that stands for. So the C stands for curiosity. And curiosity is a great way to not only get students' attention, but to get them more invested in what you're teaching. And when they're curious about what you're about to teach them, then they actually want to pay attention. And
a little bit of surprise sometimes. I think as a teacher, in my own experience, an element of surprise where kids are wondering, okay, what's she going to do next? What is this all about? Why did she put that up on the board? I mean, those kinds of things can really get their curiosity, get them engaged.
The second thing is to make learning relevant. Now, a lot of times students might wonder, why am I learning this? Or what's the need? And if they're thinking that, then that's not a great incentive for them to pay attention. So if you can actually make the learning relevant for them, if you can connect it to the real world, if you can connect it to examples that they can relate to, then you're going to be able to hold their attention for much longer.
Right, examples and stories, right, and ways to make it about them somehow. And all of those things make it relevant, definitely.
The third thing is to ask questions. Now, at the beginning of your lesson, instead of just starting off by teaching them, what if you could ask them questions that, again, arouse their curiosity and get them to really wonder. And that could really, and even in the middle of the lesson, if you feel like their minds are starting to wander, if you can just ask them questions, and deep questions, really.
Right. I mean, all kinds of questions, right? There's a whole range of questions that as a teacher you can ask. Sometimes it can be just to check that they're paying attention, get their attention back. Sometimes it can be to get them more invested in the learning process by asking them a deep, open-ended question that's going to get them thinking and curious and excited. But asking questions is fundamental to good teaching.
And then you have variety. Now, this goes without saying that the more variety you have in the ways you teach, in even just surprises, again, that you can incorporate. Maybe in the middle of the lesson, getting them to switch seats, and using different ways of teaching, movement, or PowerPoints, or
small group learning, discussions, activities, just really making sure that your classroom, your lesson plan has a variety of different techniques and activities, right?
And finally, evoking emotions. Now, emotions are really powerful when it comes to getting kids to pay attention, because in your lesson, if you could include stories, again, that really stir up their emotions, they can shift from being sort of distracted or feeling tired to suddenly feeling alert and connected with what you're teaching.
Definitely. So another thing that is important is to have frequent brain breaks, right? So you want to make sure that if you can see that the energy level in the room is low, kids are starting to get distracted, instead of just continuing on, when they're not paying attention, a better teaching technique would be to stop for a while, have them do a quick stretch or a little mindfulness, get their attention back, refocus, and then continue, right? So if everybody's been engaged in something for 20 minutes, maybe it's time for a brain break. So having these frequent brain breaks that involve either movement or some kind of breathing, I think those are really important to getting and sustaining attention.
When you plan your lessons and when you organize your lessons, you can think about doing it in smaller chunks and interspersing it with different activities, so that children can really know how to focus their attention. And you can walk children through the process, how you've broken it down and why you're doing it in that particular way, so that they will also understand and they'll know when they have to pay attention and when they can sort of relax their attention a little bit.
Right. So just for example, when I teach, I might start with a little mini lesson where I'm actually instructing kids in some way, and then I might have them all turn and talk to their partner and do a quick activity, and then we come back and I might come back to some sort of whole group instruction, but we're varying it, right? I'm planning it in these chunks, so it's not like the teacher is just talking for a long period of time, because that's a recipe for losing your students' attention. So you need to vary it so that you have small chunks of time where you are instructing, but then also lots of chunks of time for activities, discussions, kids talking to each other, and hopefully some movement as well, right? So I think the key is to plan your lessons thinking about student engagement, right? When you're planning, you're saying, okay, am I talking too much? Is it time for a brain break? Is it time for a different kind of activity, for some variation? How do I plan so that I keep my students' attention?
So let's just summarize and recap whatever we've learned so far. And I think some important takeaways for us as teachers to remember is, one is to shine the spotlight on attention. It's really important to share with children how the process of attention works and everything we know about their attention spans, and so that they will have a better idea about how to regulate themselves.
Emphasize that attention can be improved with practice, right? Just like everything else, our ability to pay attention can also get better with practice and with some sort of deliberate intention, right?
Absolutely. And finally, it's important to check in regularly with your students to see how they're feeling, to see what might be bothering them or distracting them, to see if they're comfortable in the physical environment. And those are all really important factors when it comes to their attention, and it's good to involve them in that process.
Right. Check in regularly to see, are they paying attention? And if they're not, what do you need to do to bring them back, right? So good luck getting your students to pay attention, because as you know, that's fundamental to all other cognitive processes.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.